How did the conflict between Israel and Palestine arise? A contentious decision that contributed to the long-standing Israel-Palestine conflict. Let's begin by telling you that Israel-Palestine conflict has a history. Recently, Hamas launched a deadly attack on Israel. According to the news, this is the most brutal attack Hamas has ever launched. Thousands of Israeli troops have lost their lives. You may wonder why a state like Palestine is so ruthless. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts over it. While, in our opinion, this is only one side of the story, here we are going to explain how this decades-old conflict has started and destroyed millions of lives. We'll begin with the origin of the Israel-Palestine conflict. This is lesson 1 for you. The conflict arises from Israel's need for security in a region it views as unfriendly, and the Palestinian desire for their own state. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's founder, declared the modern state of Israel on May 14, 1948, providing a safe place for Jews escaping persecution and seeking a national homeland on land that they have a strong historical tie to. For Palestinians, the creation of Israel is seen as a catastrophe known as the Nakba, leading to their displacement and the blocking of their statehood aspirations. Now, in the ensuing war, around 700,000 Palestinians, roughly half of the Arab population in British-controlled Palestine, were either forced to leave their homes or fled to Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Israel, a close U.S. ally, disputes the claim that it expelled Palestinians from their homes and emphasizes that it was attacked by 5 Arab nations the day after its establishment. While armistice agreements stopped the fighting in 1949, no official peace treaty was signed. Palestinians who remained in their homes during the conflict make up the Arab-Israeli community today. That comprises approximately 20% of Israel's population. This is the beginning of the never-ending bloodbath. Call this lesson 2 for you. In 1967, a significant conflict known as the Six-Day War occurred in the Middle East. Israel was pitted against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria in this war. Israel emerged victorious and, as a result, gained control of new territories, including the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. In 1978, there was a crucial development with the signing of the Camp David Accords. This agreement brought peace between Israel and Egypt. It was a notable milestone as it led to the return of the Sinai Peninsula to Egyptian control, marking a significant step toward stability in the region. 1987, a period of unrest began when Palestinians in the areas controlled by Israel, such as the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, initiated a series of protests and uprisings. This period became known as the First Intifada. It was a form of Palestinian resistance against Israeli rule, expressing their discontent with the situation. In 1993, a groundbreaking agreement known as the Oslo Accords was reached between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. It was called the PLO. This agreement outlined a framework for Palestinian self-rule in certain parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, setting the stage for a potential path to Palestinian autonomy. 2 years later, 1995, the peace process continued with the signing of Oslo II. This accord expanded Palestinian self-rule and introduced a complex system of zones within the West Bank, which aimed to address the intricate political and territorial issues in the region. To sum it up, the Six-Day War in 1967 led to Israel gaining control of new territories. The Camp David Accords of 1978 brought peace between Israel and Egypt and returned the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt. Now let's go over control over a region in the Middle East. This is lesson 3 for you. The First Intifada, beginning in 1987, marked a period of Palestinian protests against Israeli rule. The Oslo Accords in 1993 and Oslo II in 1995 set the framework for Palestinian self-rule and introduced complex territorial arrangements in the West Bank. In 1967, Israel launched a surprise attack against Egypt and Syria, starting the Six-Day War. As a result, Israel gained control of the West Bank, Arab East Jerusalem taken from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. In 1973, Egypt and Syria attacked Israel near the Suez Canal and the Golan Heights, leading to the Yom Kippur War. Israel managed to push back both armies within 3 weeks. Was it a wise move to attack Israel? Share what you think about it. I think both countries should have analyzed Israel's tactical capabilities before making any decision. Please let us know what your stance is. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon, leading to a 10-week siege and the evacuation of Palestine fighters under Yasser Arafat by sea. Conflict erupted again in Lebanon in 2006 when Hezbollah militants captured 2 Israeli soldiers. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, which it had captured from Egypt in 1967. However, Gaza saw major conflicts in 2006, 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021, involving Israeli air raids and Palestinian rocket attacks, sometimes leading to cross-border incursions. There have been 2 Palestinian uprisings or intifadas, one between 1987 and 1993, another from 2000 to 2005. The second intifada included Hamas suicide bombings against Israelis. Was peace treaty a diversion from Israel to gain control of Palestine? Let's talk about the peace treaty. This is lesson 4. In 1979, Egypt and Israel did something very important. They signed a peace treaty, which is like an agreement to stop fighting with each other. Before this, they had been enemies for 30 years, always in conflict. This is a big deal because it brought peace to a region that has seen a lot of war and tensions. Egypt and Israel are 2 countries in the Middle East, and their relationship was not good for a long time. But in 1979, they decided to make a change. The treaty meant that they would stop fighting and start talking to each other. They agreed to recognize each other as countries and have friendly relations. This was a historic moment because it showed that even longtime enemies can find a way to make peace. The peace between Egypt and Israel has held for many years, and it has had a positive impact on the Middle East. It's an example of how diplomacy and agreements can help bring an end to conflict and make the world a more peaceful place. In 1993, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat brokered the Oslo Accords, a historic agreement aimed at resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This accord outlined a framework for limited Palestinian self-governance in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, marking a significant step towards peace. It established the Palestinian Authority, which was granted control over specific areas, such as civil administration and security. However, the path to a final resolution was rocky, with violence and mistrust prevailing, ultimately hindering the full realization of peace and a 2-state solution. In 1994, Israel signed a groundbreaking peace treaty with Jordan. A treaty signed by Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Jordan's King Hussein marked a critical milestone in the region's peace process. It led to normalized diplomatic relations, cooperation in various sectors, and the end of hostilities between the 2 nations. The treaty significantly improved stability in the Middle East, setting an example of peaceful coexistence between Israel and an Arab country. It served as a blueprint for future peace initiatives and demonstrated that reconciliation and cooperation were possible in a historically tumultuous region. For Lesson 5, we discuss the challenges to the peace negotiations. In 2000, a crucial meeting called the Camp David Summit with President Bill Clinton, Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and Palestinian leader Arafat did not lead to a peace agreement. In 2002, an Arab proposal suggested that if Israel withdrew from lands it occupied in 1967, allowed a Palestinian state, and addressed the issue of Palestinian refugees, they would have normal relations with Arab nations. Peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians have faced difficulty since 2014. The Palestinians refused to work with the Trump administration because it didn't support the idea of a 2-state solution, where there'd be a separate state for Palestinians in the 1967 occupied areas. Currently, the Biden administration is trying to create a wider peace deal in the Middle East. This plan includes improving relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, an important country for Islam. Several Arab nations, like those near Saudi Arabia, have made peace agreements with Israel recently. In simpler terms, important meetings in 2000 and 2002 did not bring peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Peace efforts have been tough, especially since 2014. The Palestinians didn't cooperate with the Trump administration because it didn't support a 2-state solution. Now, the Biden administration is trying to make a bigger peace deal in the Middle East, and some Arab countries have already made peace with Israel. Now, are you in favor of peace between these 2 nations? Feel free to mention your thoughts in the comment section. Why peace at this point seems impossible. This is Lesson 6 for you. Israel and Palestine are undergoing a never-ending war. From 1948 till now, several attempts have been made to bring peace. However, there are some clear reasons due to why it seems to be an impossible thing. Number one is a two-state solution. This is the idea of creating two separate countries, one for the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and one for Israel. Hamas, a Palestinian group, opposes this and wants to destroy Israel. Israel insists that if there's a Palestinian state, it should not have a military that could threaten Israel. Many countries consider Jewish settlements in land that Israel took over in 1967 to be illegal. Israel disagrees and says it has historical and religious connections to that land. The expansion of these settlements is a major point of disagreements between Israel, the Palestinians, and the world. Palestinians want East Jerusalem to be the capital of their state. This part of Jerusalem is home to important religious sites for Muslims, Jews, and Christians. Israel says that the entire city should be its capital, but most countries don't agree with that. Now, there are about 5.6 million Palestinian refugees today, many of whom are descendants of those who left their homes in 1948. They live in various places, including Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, and Gaza. About half of these refugees don't have recognized citizenship, and many live in crowded camps. Who do you think is responsible for such unbearable circumstances between Israel and Palestine? As per our knowledge, United Nations biased policies are the main reason here. Well, you can comment to share your opinion. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a deeply entrenched issue with numerous historical, political, and territorial complexities. Achieving lasting peace remains a formidable challenge, but international efforts persist in the hope of finding a resolution that can bring stability and justice to this troubled region. Don't hesitate to share your opinion in the comments section below. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, do share the video as well. Let us know which country you support by mentioning its flag in the comments.